Hi, this is Bill Frisell, and you're watching Guitar Magic. In music, it's like, that wasn't a mistake. That was some sound that I never heard before, and let's try to rescue that sound and make it sound cool.
Okay, let me set this up for you just a little bit. It took me 3 years to get on Bill's calendar, but his management team was kind enough to include me at the tail end of his press tour for his new Blue Note album entitled Orchestras. They said, "Hey John, if you can be ready at 7:20 a.m., Bill would love to talk with you after he talks with all the music journalists in Europe." I said, "No problem, I'll be there." 7:20 a.m. comes, Bill pops on the screen, except he's totally flustered. I have absolutely no idea why. He proceeds to tell me that he's in New York, they just had a 4.2 earthquake, and now I'm thinking, what are we gonna do? So I just took a deep breath, I hit record, and then, like magic, Bill and I transformed the moment into the most wonderful conversation. But before we get into it, I wanna ask you a question. Is it crazy to think you'll support this channel? You know the saying, if you build it, they will come? Well, this episode was 3 years in the making. You're here to see it right now. So please subscribe. All right, I know you're gonna dig this episode. Just keep on watching. Be sure you stick around to the end because I included some bonus footage from the 2023 Fretboard Summit where Bill played the most gorgeous version of the tune, What the World Needs Now. Below in the show notes, I included links to all things Bill Frisell, as well as the Guitar Magic tip jar. And don't miss out on the Guitar Magic merch store. I have a limited time offer on some very colorful socks in honor of Bill Frisell. That'll all make a whole lot more sense after the first minute of the interview. Here it comes. A handful of years ago, my wife noticed that I was admiring that you always wear cool looking socks. And she got me a pair for my birthday and I loved them. And she was so happy because there was finally something she could get for me. My hobbies are guitars and fly fishing, and she doesn't know about that, but she could do socks. And here, I'll show you.
Oh,
Um,
man.
I, I think I've got some rainbow socks on
Oh,
right now.
those are amazing.
And I'm tangled up. Anyway, I have about, I don't know, a dozen cool pairs of socks now, and it's mostly because it traces back to you having cool socks.
Oh. Yeah, I can't. Today I'm pretty conservative. They're not, I won't even show him.
My first real question is, when did your love affair with the guitar really kick in?
Oh, well, I mean, in a way, it's been there. When I think back, it's way, way back. Like I tell this story about when my family first got a television when I was I was like I think I was like 4 years old or something, and I would watch the Mickey Mouse Club on TV, and at the end of the show, this guy Jimmy would come out with his guitar, and I was like, man, I just thought it, like, this goes way, way back. It's sort of, somehow I connect it with television, that you see cowboys playing guitars, and then it wasn't too long before there was all the folk thing. I'm talking about late 50s,
Right.
early 60s, and it just always was. I found a picture of myself with my grandfather when I must have been like maybe 3 years old, and I'm holding a ukulele and he's playing a little violin. So there's been a fascination with it for just as long as I can remember. And then, as the 60s, then there's surf music and the Beatles, and it just kept building and building.
Right.
And the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. It was like the world changed from the day before to the day after. I just remember at school, I was in seventh grade when that happened, and the day after that, everybody wanted to get a guitar. So I already had wanted to get a guitar, or I already, because it was surf music before that, but it just kept getting more and more. I loved it all the time, and then by high school, I was just really. It seemed like something impossible to actually do, to have a career or something, but by then I was playing in bands, and that's pretty much, I just kept doing that. I've been doing it ever since, by I guess it was the end. How old was I? Like 14 or something when I got an electric guitar, and then my friend got an electric guitar, and another friend got some drums, and then you automatically have a band. You learn songs, and then you go, sort of, somebody has a party in their basement, and it seemed like 2 weeks later we were playing for a party in somebody's basement, and it just keeps going and going. And by the end of high school, I think, is when I really was like, I still didn't think it would be possible, but I knew that was pretty much all I wanted to do.
The guitars themselves, they come and go out of our lives. And I assume at this point you've probably got a lot of cool guitars for different purposes. But I'm wondering, how do you find them at this point, or do they find you?
Yeah, I guess I'm always on the lookout or something. I don't know. I've got way too many guitars. And then I think about thinking back during that time. I'm talking about in the 60s, like, man, like the pawn shop. I grew up in Denver, and you could go to these pawn shops. And I remember this is for guitar players, like they could understand what I'm talking. Like I remember when Fender switched from having maple fingerboards on their guitars to having rosewood. Like the 50s Fender guitars were like, oh, just throw those away, And like I bought a Fender Esquire back then for like $75,
Wow.
like a mid 50s Fender Esquire. And I think, man, why didn't I should have, or I could have got a Les Paul for $125, but I didn't have $125. I'm talking about, late 50s Les Paul.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, we have these weird love affairs with the instrument, and sometimes they come, sometimes they go, and sometimes they don't wind up in our hands. We just remember them as things that could have been, wishes that could have been.
Yeah. But they also, there's something inspiring about, when you pick up it can sort of take me back to that time, or that you feel I don't know. I love playing older instruments. There's something about all the energy that someone put into playing an older instrument that I think they really do pick up. They're infused with it's not just a piece of wood or metal or whatever, there's a lot of stuff that gets in there.
Yeah. It's almost like other people's intentions, good and hopefully mostly good intentions, rub off on them and get in there. I'm kind of curious. Is there a piece of music that you can recall that just took your breath away the first time you heard it?
Oh boy. I guess again, like earlier on, I think I was always attracted to these groups. Like there was something about hearing harmony. Like I remember the Beach Boys, I always loved them. There was something just about having this unified sound that they all made together, or Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons or something, or then the Beatles again. It's like this thing something that happens when people are together that doesn't happen. There's something about harmony that always knocked me out, I guess.
It feels so human too. Harmony is it's almost the proof that we're not alone.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of that, I mean, of course I loved hearing the guitar, but I guess also I've always been more fascinated with the way things blend together than I mean, of course I love hearing somebody out front playing some amazing thing, but what gets me off more is the way people play together. Again, like the Beatles, again, it's like there was this, especially at the beginning, you couldn't tell, wait, who's doing what? Or even like Jimi Hendrix, thinking about when I first heard him, and I was lucky I got to see him play a couple times, but it was something like, what is this? Of course, it's this incredible guitar playing, but there was this relationship with his singing and the guitar that it made there was a sound that we'd never heard before. It was something I couldn't even, I still remember that moment hearing that, and it's like, it has nothing to do with anything that I knew up to this point. It's like I couldn't decipher it at all. It was just this sound, something brand new.
Yeah. New sound. I mean, it kind of slows you down and you listen more deeply, or it just goes in differently, I think, when it's new. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Um, oh,
another thing. I try to stay in touch with it. I think like things that we take for granted now, I like to try to imagine what it sounded like when, like Louis Armstrong. Okay, we all kind of know what Louis Armstrong sounds like, and it's incredible. But try to imagine, what did that sound like if you're walking down the street and you go in this bar and there's this guy doing that. It's like 1927 and you go in there. Mike, talk about having your brains blown out. It would be like you just were landed on Mars or something,
yeah.
And trying to keep in touch with that, whether something's old or new or whatever it is, just that the excitement of what that feels like to, have your mind blown.
I'm wondering, did music come easy to you, or does it come easy to you, or do you have to work at it to get it together?
Oh, it doesn't come easy. I mean, it's not about, it's more that I just love doing it. I mean, I don't really feel like I'm not very good at it. It's not about that. It's more that I just love trying to figure it out more than it doesn't come naturally to me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel that way. I mean, I just keep plugging away, and I don't have perfect pitch, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, but I just love trying to figure it out. And that's what's awesome about it too. You can't finish it. You never finish music. You have to get comfortable with the fact that you're never going to get there. It's just this amazing thing about taking the next step further every day or every second,
Yeah. In my own playing, I've been trying to sort out if the goal is to have more control over my facility to get creative ideas out, or if it's just to let go and see what happens. And for some reason, I always think of them as sort of diametrically opposed to each other. But do you have any thoughts?
What you just said, don't you think that they could? It's sort of it's like one feeds the other. You could be working on some physical, technical, mathematical thing, and it could shoot you off into some, wow, I just realized, they feed each other, all those things,
Yeah.
If you come up with some sort of inspiration, and when we're trying to talk about music, there's always the opposite is always probably true with anything, but we make a statement and then, well, wait a minute, yeah, but it's the opposite could easily be true.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for some reason in my mind, I want to organize everything into neat categories, and I think maybe it's not that way, and that's
but then, yeah, but then you need to do that too. So
a little bit of everything, maybe. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm kind of wondering, is there something that you think maybe your fans or even your close friends really don't understand about your creative life?
I mean, I don't know what they. I'm sure there is. I mean, nobody knows really what's going on in anybody else's. I guess I'm the only one that knows what I'm struggling with. So I don't know what we all have our own pain or happiness, or that you can't. There's no way to know.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I've been lucky though too, that I get to do. It's kind of amazing that I get to play the way I play. When I go play, it's just it's really, of course I want to share it with people, but it's really more about me. I have to play something that I feel good about. I'm not trying to figure out what somebody else wants to hear. I'm trying to get at what I want to hear. And hopefully I think that's the best way for it to happen, is if I really, like, if I love what I'm doing and whatever it is I'm trying to get at, if the audience can come along with me or feel that I'm getting some kind of joy out of that, that's the best, rather than thinking they're going to go see a show or see me recreate something that I did before. Because every time I play, I want to try to push it out into some place where I've never been, and that's where I feel like I've been lucky enough to have some kind of an audience that understands that. And because I don't want to just go and rattle off something that I figured out. I want to keep it constantly off the edge of what I know. And if there's people that are willing to go along with that, because it doesn't always work out. And, so, but just the fact of doing it is what's important, I think.
I was thinking, my musical life is really spent mostly alone. And I was, it's an interesting layer I can't even imagine what it's like to have fans or people that would pay attention. I don't have to think about the equation of an audience. It's not, it's not a problem for me. But it must be a neat sensation to realize that you have fans.
No, it's amazing. And then it becomes part of the, music itself. They become part of the band. And, I mean, for me, that's what it's always been, not about the audience, but it's just about playing with other people. Like I said, I got a guitar and my friend got one, and that's what it's always been, having. So that was what was, during the pandemic was so, well, plenty of traumatic things about it, but one of the just shocking things with musically, to not be able to interact with another person, that was, so it was a time, but it also was a time, okay, now I'm going to practice, back to just so that, but.
I think I'd like to ask you one more big question. Then I want to come back to something that's maybe a little easier to answer, I hope. But I think a lot about music as a way of connecting with people, and the guitar too. It brings a lot of people together. And I was just sort of wondering, what are some ways that you think the concept of trust weaves through music?
Oh, well, that's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, for me, that's, again, playing with the people that I love to play with. That's where the stuff, where you're not afraid, it's not a contest. It's not about doing something right or wrong. It's about, let's have a conversation and let's try to get to some amazing place where we've never been before. And if you don't trust each other, it's blocked. You can't get past, you can't be afraid you have to be able to make a mistake and not be judged for it. And like when you're with a group, somebody makes a mistake, you don't point that out and say, it's not that, you have to, in music, it's like, that wasn't a mistake. That was some sound that I never heard before. And I'm going to let's try to rescue that sound and make it sound cool. Or let's let that be an opportunity to move off into some place where we've never been. And that's the thing, like, mistakes are amazing if you're actually listening and if you don't panic, and you could play something that you didn't mean to play, but if you're listening to the sound, it can be the most amazing opportunity to find a new way into something. And so if everyone's trusting each other, it's the best. That's so, in what you just said, trust is everything.
I know there's something to this trust thing. Thanks for going down that path a little bit with me. I wanted to ask you something.
Before I jump into the next question, I feel like you need a little context or it won't make much sense. In 2023, I went to the Fretboard Summit in Chicago. It was put on by the Fretboard Journal. It was very fun. One of the things I participated in was playing in the Bill Frisell Orchestra. That's essentially Bill Frisell teaching me and 58 other guitar players how to play 2 of his tunes all at the same time. It was fun. It was funny. It was kind of a musical train wreck, but I'm really glad I did it. Now I can tell everyone I played with Bill Frisell. Anyway, I hope that information helps you understand the joke I was trying to make in the next question.
Everybody played the downbeats.
I was at the Fretboard Summit, and I played in the Bill Frisell Orchestra, and then I know you have a new release coming out on Blue Note Orchestras, and I thought, well, maybe I didn't get the callback on the audition. And then I realized, oh no, it's an album. What's the concept behind this new album, and what are you most excited about as it's being born?
Well, this is like a kind of a going all the way back to when I was in high school. I discovered the arrangements. I think that's too small of a word to say what, but Michael Gibbs is the arranger, composer. This is really about my relationship with him, who I discovered when I was in high school. And I heard his music back then. And then a few years later, I was able to, he was my teacher, and then he started calling me for gigs. And so I have like a more than 50, well, I met him almost 50 years ago. So this has been a dream of mine to get something documented of this really important person in my life. So, it's my trio, it's nothing is mine, but with Rudy and Thomas, who I've been playing with for many years, and then Michael Gibbs creating this world for us to be in. It's been amazing. So it's really about, for me, it's incredible to have this evidence of this relationship that I've had with this friend, teacher, mentor, person of mine for so much of my life. So that's what it's about, really.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it comes out soonish. What happens when you haven't? I mean, it's a pretty, just on the little blurbs that I've heard so far. I mean, it's not like it would be easy to. It's not as easy to tour with that many musicians.
That's not gonna be happy. I mean, there's one concert later in the summer with the orchestra in Norway, but it's very rare that we'll be able to do this. We did last year, we played at the Big Ears Festival with the Knoxville Symphony. And so every once in a while, so I mean, hopefully there'll be some chances to, but it's not like we can just, let's go play at the bar down the street.
Yeah. Well, I want to be cautious about overstaying my welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. It's a real treat for me, and thanks for just doing what you do. You're a person who seems to be committed to doing what he needs to do in this world, and I'm glad you're out there doing it.
Good talking to you.